Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It is Wacky and Weird Wednesday. That's right, we have all the wacky and weird news you could ever want for this week's news cycle, or at least since last Wednesday's. We've got people getting into trouble, governments doing weird things, weird stuff being found in your Uber cars, all sorts of news. So, this is Before Coffee, the father and daughter comprehensive news of Planet Earth podcast, where we look up our stories 10 to 15 minutes before we started, and we haven't had any caffeine. And of course,
none.
Roger's not even in a bed. He on the road still in Iowa now. So,
I'm a vagrant.
Yeah, he's a vagrant. Combing his hair with his fingers.
Iowa.
Yeah, Iowa.
Yeah, it's idiots out wandering around. Iowa. There's your acronym.
So let's start our news stories here with reading out our headlines. Today on Before Coffee, a couple ordered Pringles, a Coke, and water on their flight. Then they were escorted off the plane by police. And chilling and dystopian. Britain goes full Minority Report as pre-crime program is uncovered.
Boris Johnson gets attacked by an ostrich in Texas. Plus, for small farmers, the egg shortage has a surprise silver lining.
Holy croc! 500 live crocodiles worth 4 crores are up for grabs in auction. Here's why. And do completely dark matter halos exist?
Uber lost and found items include a live turtle and a chainsaw. Plus, we have a babysitter who checked under the bed for a monster and found one.
In my culture segment, we're going to read an interview with Peter Capaldi. The people of Glasgow frowned on all the spitting in his punk rock past.
And it's National Unicorn Day, so take your unicorn out for a walk for April 9th, 2025 on Before Coffee.
My unicorn at my neighbor's house, so I'm going to have to go pick that up so I can take it for a walk later. It's really hard to take my unicorn for a walk while I'm doing the show, so, I let them look after it. Meanwhile. Just seriously talking about unicorns. Okay, let's get our segue wheel rolling.
Unicorns and ostriches.
Yeah,
today.
And ostriches.
Which is like the unicorn of birds.
All right.
The
Looks
ostrich.
like haiku actually. Haiku is what you're writing me a haiku.
All right. All right.
So my first story is about a couple who ordered Pringles on a flight and then they were escorted off the plane. This is by Mana Thomas on People. And Mary Marie, 55, says her credit card wouldn't swipe on a recent Ryanair flight, and the repercussions weren't what she or her fellow passengers anticipated. A British couple learned the hard way that the price of airplane snacks might be their dignity. On March 28th, a couple was escorted off their Ryanair flight from Tenerife, Spain, en route to Bristol, the UK, after being unable to pay for the snacks they acquired on board, according to a report from SWNS via the New York Post. The wife, Anne Marie Murray, 55, ordered Pringles, a bottle of water, and a Coca-Cola for nearly $9. But when she went to pay, she claimed the in-flight payment system wasn't accepting her credit card, and the couple didn't have enough cash between them to pay. Murray's husband offered to pay for the snacks when they landed in Bristol. However, the flight crew reportedly declined this alternative and accused the couple of refusing to pay. The passengers alleged that the crew took their boarding passes and told them the police would be waiting for them when they touched down in the UK. As promised, the police boarded the aircraft when it landed at Bristol Airport. I thought it was a joke when the crew said they had called the police, he explained. I was shocked when the police came on board and were asked to leave. It was so embarrassing. I had done everything I could to resolve it. In a statement from Ryanair obtained by People, a spokesperson said, the crew of this flight from the Tenerife to Bristol called ahead of the police assistance after a passenger and a travel companion failed to pay for their food and drinks on board. As a result, it became disruptive towards the crew and failed to follow reasonable crew requests. Murray claims that she wasn't disruptive, per SWNS, and that there were no raised voices between her and her husband and the flight crew. In a video of the altercation obtained by People, Murray could be heard telling police officers that the decision was a silly misunderstanding. She also added that a pair of passengers on their flight informed her and her husband that the card payment system had been broken on a previous flight as well. However, the airline refuted the claim the payment system was malfunctioning, alleging there were no issues with the card payment terminals on board this flight, and no other passengers encountered any difficulty making payments. Murray said she also asked for CCTV footage of the incident, but was allegedly told the airline could not release the video, probably because it showed that it was indeed a total whack job of a reaction, calling the police on people for $9 worth of Pringles. Wild and wacky news here on Before Coffee. In a more UK being weird.
Hold on a second.
Oh, you have a haiku for this, okay?
All right. So you want Pringles? Not quite enough pounds sterling? Enjoy prison cell. All right.
It's for $9, for $9. It's crazy.
Not quite enough pounds.
We're
sterling.
arresting you for $9. Just let me go to an ATM and come back. In more chilling and dystopian news,
little power hungry. Okay.
Britain goes full Minority Report as pre-crime program is uncovered. This is We Got This Covered by David James. In the famous meme, a sci-fi author states that he wrote a novel, Don't Invent the Torment Nexus, only for a tech company to miss the point and proudly invent a real-time torment nexus. It seems the United Kingdom has decided to make that concept a reality, as the British government has been forced to fulfill their building a no-kidding Minority Report-style pre-crime division. As far as we know, this isn't a bunch of bald psychics hooked up to computers, but it's described as murder prediction program, which uses people's personal data to identify those most likely to kill someone soon. Not just in the future, but soon. This person's really angry and he's looking up how to buy a gun illegally. He might be killing someone soon. Fair enough, but according to The Guardian, the government is using algorithms to analyze the information of thousands of people, including victims of crime, to figure out who's likely to snap. The British Ministry of Justice explains that this program seeks to review the offender characteristics that increase the risk of committing homicide, and also explore alternative innovative data science techniques to risk assessment of homicide. Officials underline that this is for research purposes only. We will not be sharing the names of people, and then they will not be arrested before they've committed a crime. No, not at all. That was not a real quote. That was me. And for that, for the moment at least, they won't be arresting anyone for a murder they're yet to commit. They shouldn't be arresting anyone at all. As you expect, profiling people for crimes that an algorithm has concluded they're likely to commit in the future hasn't gone down particularly well. Sophia Leal, a researcher for pressure group State Watch, uncovered this program's existence through Freedom of Information request and described a crime prediction system as chilling and dystopian. Like other systems of its kind, it will code in bias towards racialized and low-income communities. Building an automated tool to profile people as violent criminals is deeply wrong, and using such sensitive data on mental health, addiction, and disability is highly intrusive and alarming. Yeah, because that's what algorithms do. They look at data and they make patterns out of that data. And just because there's a pattern out of it doesn't mean that because let's be honest, if you're taking data of arrests, common arrests, in this area, for example, they all seem to be, Moroccan people from third generation immigrants, oh, that's a weird pattern. No, it's just bias. Because maybe, right, some Dutch guy, my neighbor or something, does the same crime. It's okay, a little slap on the wrist. We're not going to arrest you for that. It was a mistake. But if somebody that a police officer thinks, is maybe racist against or prejudiced against, they could say, oh, that's very odd that there's a lot of Moroccans being arrested in your village. Yeah, because the police here are racist or something, And it has nothing to do with Moroccans are more likely to do crimes or any other minority. I'm just using these as example. This isn't a true thing that's happening, at least as far as I know. But that's what they mean by a system bias, right? Humans create the data that the algorithm uses, and that data is not fair whatsoever. That's what I'm talking about, Vanka. Not about the humans being racist. Sorry, not about the AI being racist, but the humans who give the data to the AI being racist. Perhaps we should take the government at its word, and that this is just an experiment to see if an algorithm can really predict murder. Then again, it's very easy to imagine lazy cops leaning on its tech and deciding that if the algorithm, doubtless boosted by AI, selects you as being a potential troublemaker, let alone a murderer, they should have the right to impose restrictions on you before you can break the law. Let's say you disagree with the government on some fundamental issues. Is it too crazy to imagine future versions of the system, like returning your social media profile, tagging you as someone likely to join a protest on the street, and an order made to advance on the event and specifically forbidding you to attend? Either way, Philip K. Dick must be spinning in his grave right now. So there's your story on the Minority Report. It's just an experiment until we decide, you know what, this works, let's use it forever. Just an experiment. Some things don't need to be experimented on. We already had the film about it. We know what happens. It causes everyone to be very, very sad and be oppressed. Yeah. Let's not do that.
And imagine spinning in your grave, too. That's
exactly. That's pretty impressive.
Anyway, here's your haiku. Ready? For haiku.
I'm ready.
You might commit crime. Government will now predict and take you away. All right, so there's your future.
There's our future, at least in the UK.
To the present, at least, well, on to the present weirdness going on in the world. So
okay, I have to give you a personal story.
All right. We're going to talk about Boris Johnson get attacked by an ostrich. That's current. It's a short story. It's from AP News, Associated Press. Boris Johnson gets a surprise peck from an ostrich in Texas. It's from the Associated Press. Former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson received a memorable welcome from an ostrich at a state park in Texas, where the towering two-legged bird gave him a peck, according to a video Sunday. In the video, posted by his wife Carrie Johnson, an ostrich slowly walks toward the car before poking its head through the driver's seat window, where Johnson is sitting and his son on his lap. With his son on his lap. Once in front of the Johnson, the bird quickly pecks his beak towards his hand. "Oh, Christ," Johnson yells before driving off in the video. Yeah, he could have hurt the ostrich. "Too funny not to share," Carrie Johnson said in the caption on Instagram. It's not clear which wildlife park they were visiting, but other posts on the same account show the family visiting Dinosaur Valley Park, about 80 miles southwest of Dallas. Boris Johnson, who served as prime minister from 2019 to 22, was also spotted with his wife at a local restaurant in Lake Granbury, Texas on Sunday, according to the restaurant's Facebook page. "We are so honored to have him as our guest," said Stumpy's Lakeside Grill on Facebook posts, and a photo of the former prime minister eating his Stumpies. Attacked by an ostrich eating at Stumpies. There's your little whimsical story for today. You have anything for that?
Have any personal stories about ostriches? No, but I do remember there was like a fad, I guess, in the 2020s that was like emus everywhere. Everyone had an emu.
Oh, yeah.
I think I watched this YouTube channel called Little White House on the Hill, which ironically they moved away from the White House on the Hill, so their YouTube channel didn't make any sense because they had a White House on the Hill anymore. But they were a what do you call those guys? What is the name of it? You know, like the prairie, you know, people going out there making their own settlements, those kind of people, right? We're going to go do that ourselves. They had their own farm with chickens and all that. But that was also, for some reason, he was like really obsessed with hatching emu eggs. So they had emus and he would try to hatching eggs. He ended up having 2, I think, emus. And it was really cool to watch it grow up. You know, little tiny emu running around, and then it's a big emu. You know. Emus are very aggressive. Unlike ostriches, aren't as aggressive, but emus are actually famously aggressive. They will attack.
They are. There's actually a famous ventriloquist it was an Australian ventriloquist who got quite famous for having a emu for a puppet, you know, and it would always attack him. That's always ever happened. The thing would just attack him. He'd be laying on the ground with an emu, basically attacking himself with his own arm. Anyway, You spoke of eggs, so that segues to our next story, which is from Eater.com. It's from Amy McCarthy from Eater.com. For small farmers, the egg shortage has a surprising silver lining.
Oh, my segue actually worked. We're
Last
talking
November,
about eggs. Emo eggs.
Yeah, we're talking about emo eggs. We're going to talk about eggs. Birds and eggs. Last November, Mike Trent, owner of the Trent Family Farms in Cloverdale, Oregon, started to notice that egg prices were going to get crazy as the avian influenza crisis worsened among major egg producers across the country and prices began to trend upward. Trent knew that 2025 wasn't going to be a normal year for eggs, but he also wasn't especially worried. As it turns out, higher commodity egg prices are not really a bad thing for smaller producers, especially those who are focused on producing the best quality eggs they can. Of course, free roam eggs are a lot easier, a lot safer because the chickens aren't in an assembly line. As wholesale egg prices soared in January, February, Trent's operations started picking up new customers. He'd previously been a supplier to top Portland restaurants like Ava Jeans, Tusk, and Tumont, and currently operates an egg subscription program in which retail consumers can buy their weekly dozen eggs in advance. I was starting to pick up a few new clients, and they're telling me what they're paying for eggs, and it's going up every single week, Trent says. Then in January, the phone calls really started coming. People wanted eggs from me because I never really raised the price of my eggs. While major egg producers like Purdue have invested in specialized biosecurity protocols intended to stop the spread of avian influenza at farms and production facilities, that wasn't an option for Trent. His 2,500 or so birds have full access to pastures, which he believes results in both happier chickens and better tasting eggs. My chickens are 100% free range, no lockdown, no nothing, and they stayed healthy, he says. But your big corporate farms with their expensive biosecurity protocols and all the precautions are still getting the bird flu. Trent was able to keep his prices the same because the costs of maintaining his flock have remained relatively stable. Unlike commercial egg operations, in which chickens are crammed into crowded cages, the pasture-raised model may offer some natural insulation from the spread of avian influenza. Well, no shit. New production methods. Hey, how about that? Let's do more security. Nah, these big producers are like, no, we don't want new production methods. We're cranking them out. They're still making profits. Of course, they can get away with raising their prices. This is why small farmers are important.
This is why I've always been saying this. Okay, you don't have to be vegan. You don't have to be vegetarian. Just buy locally. That will do way more for any animal rights, environmental rights, any of that. Just buying locally.
Right. And being on the Eastern Shore and seeing all the way chickens are treated, it's just depressing. It made me never want to eat chicken again. But I got over it. According to the American Pasteurized Poultry Producers Association, the APPPA, the American Pasteurized Poultry Producers Association, the APPPA, all poultry is vulnerable to bird flu outbreaks, but the virus is most damaging to intensely confined flocks found in the commercial poultry industry. And although wild birds can spread avian influenza to pasteurized flocks, Trent has fortunately managed to avoid the virus so far. In fact, the avian influenza crisis has given Trent the opportunity to expand his business. He's entered into a cooperative agreement with other nearby egg farmers so that he's able to meet the demand for his eggs, which has been rising significantly over the past few months. No surprise, he's got cheaper eggs and safer. He's hoping to bring more chickens into his flock too. He says he needs somewhere around 10,000. Now he's gonna get too big, and that's gonna be a problem. That's what I predict. To fully meet the increased demand. At the same time, he's careful about which new clients he takes on, especially when it comes to restaurants, in order to ensure that his growth is sustainable. My eggs have always been expensive, until this year, I should say, but my farm-to-table people have been with me since I started doing this 6 years ago, have always been willing to pay a little extra for a good product, Trent says. I'm a little bit leery with bigger corporate restaurants because they have bosses who are dictating to their chefs what they can spend on eggs, and when those commodity prices go back down, they're going to drop me fast. And although egg prices have already started to come down, Trent believes that his eggs, with their rich, nutritious yolks, ready to stand out in comparison to the average grocery store egg, and that more and more consumers are starting to realize that. His egg CSA has grown consistently over the past several months, and he's now got 9 coolers scattered across the Portland metro area where subscribers can pick up their weekly dozens. He's only expecting these subscribers to increase in the coming months. Once I get my eggs in front of somebody and they can see the quality, I think they're going to stick with me, he says. And if the price is really similar, why wouldn't you want an egg that tastes better? There's your not so strange story about a small farmer. Getting out ahead of the egg business.
Yeah, Ivanka was asking, if everyone buys locally, won't that increase demand? Which, yes, we did kind of cover that, right? He is having to deal with increased demand, but it's more like from restaurants, right? And I guess what you could argue, if you're worried that the local population, right, that demand will increase, you're probably I would start asking where you live. You know?
Yeah.
If you're really running out of eggs, I would just make sure, where do you live? Oh, I live so far away. I drove 10 miles to get here. Okay, well, I'm not selling eggs to you. I'm only selling to local people right now because I'm running out of supply, and I'd rather sell to my local community than to some guy who drove here for 10 miles. And also, it sounds like this particular egg seller, right, can just stop selling to restaurants if they are running out of eggs, right?
Right.
Or maybe the other way around. They stop selling to people and they only sell to restaurants. That's where they determine their business model, right?
Right. Right, because restaurants got to buy in bulk and restaurants got to buy in advance.
Yeah.
So they're not necessarily looking for a small producer. Anyway.
I don't really have a personal story
big restaurants.
about
I should
that
say
other
big
than,
restaurants have to
you know, I live in a village, so I can buy locally everything, mostly. Anything because there's like this whole area I live in is called the green, what is it called again? It's the Green Valley, okay? There's millions of farms everywhere. From all directions.
Well, in Maryland, where I live.
In
Maryland, where I live, you can always...
Sorry?
I thought you were done talking. I thought you were done. Sorry.
No, I was doing my personal story, because that's my segue. So.
Oh, okay. In Maryland, where I live, you can just buy from the Amish. I'm done. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's kind of the same thing here, except that everyone is just a farmer. Of course, you can't find all of the goods, right? Like, I'm not going to be finding avocados in the local farm nearby. I mean, we're even growing our own jalapenos because jalapenos have been kind of randomly available and then not available. So we'll see how well that works. I think it's the first time growing our own jalapenos. So.
All right.
I do have the option to buy commercial. There's this company in the Netherlands called Unilever. And they own all of the agricultural goods of Europe, actually. So they're originally a Dutch company, though. And they definitely exist. And they're the people who were paying the farmers to protest back in 2021, 2022?
Oh, yeah.
They were, like, literally, there's proof. They were paying farmers, like, giving them flags and saying, go out there and yell about that. They're reducing the amount of cows you can have because it's hurting their bottom line. Not the farmers, it's hurting them. Unilever, the people who make billions, trillions every year on all the farming goods. Yep. So, definitely have that. Definitely have commercial options here. All right, let me roll the wheel before we get into a long tangent about farmers. One of my favorite topics to talk about.
You're taking a big U-turn back to the show now.
All right, give me a mixed metaphor for my stories, which are about... Holy croc! 500 live crocodiles for auction in China. This is from Sudensha Ghoshal on Live Mint. Binaru commercial share price made a positive debut by 3.6% higher than their usual price. Binaru commercial, wait, no, what is this? What am I reading? Oh, I don't know what I'm reading. Not the story I wanted to read. Okay, here you go. I was reading the stock prices on the side. They have the stock prices on the side of the website. All right. Stock market's crash is the current talk of the town in the US, in Asia, and China, and other several stocks plunged on Monday. But in China, a crocodile auction has grabbed equal attention, which auctioned 100 tons of, or around 500 live crocodiles for 4 million won, or $750,000, in a sale that required buyers to pick the reptiles up in person. Objects, famous pieces of painting, cricketers are usually up for auction, but crocodiles? The crocodiles originally belonged to Guangdong Qionghai Crocodile Industry Company. The China court put the assets of the company, the crocodiles, for auction after the firm failed to meet certain financial obligations, reported South China Morning Post. The Shenzhen Nanshan People's Court in China captured public attention by auctioning off the live crocodiles. The starting bid was set at 4 million won, which is roughly around $750,000, reported South China Morning Post. The crocodile auction was hosted in Alibaba Judicial Auction Platform. The crocodiles originally belonged to the Guangdong Qionghai Crocodile Industry Company, which was founded in 2005 by Mo Zhongrong, reported SCMP. Mo, nicknamed the Crocodile God, had registered capital of more than 50 million won of crocodiles. The company, however, failed to meet its financial obligations, after which the China court confiscated the crocodiles and put them up for auction. The reptiles up for auction are Siamese crocodiles, which have been legally farmed and traded in China since 2003. Gotta make those crocodile skin boots or whatever. Given the Siamese crocodile typically weighs 200 to 500 kilograms, the 100 tons of crocodiles would likely consist of around 200 to 500 individual reptiles, reported SEMP. Crocodile farming is profitable due to high demand for crocodile meat and skin, with meat being a source of exotic protein and skin used for luxury leather goods and also for medicinal purposes. Yeah, those Chinese medicinal herbs and stuff. Apart from their skin and meat, crocodiles are also sought after for their bones, teeth, and even blood, which are utilized for traditional medicines and also other purposes. So that's why they're there, and it's just like a wacky thing, you know, we're selling around 500 crocodiles. Get on this with your money, I guess, if you're looking to buy some crocodiles. Have any metaphors for that?
Yeah, well, if you're a crocodile, you probably shouldn't be too thin-skinned. That's supposed to be a mixed metaphor, right?
Yeah, mixed up.
If that's a metaphor or not.
In more weird news, or more like odd news, right? This is more oddities of our universe. Can a halo be completely dark? As in a dark matter halo. You've got normal matter halos, which are bright, and shiny, and other halos. Can they be made of dark matter? This is from the University of California, San Diego, on physics.org. Every galaxy is thought to form at the center of a dark matter halo, a region of gravitational bound matter that extends far beyond the visible boundaries of a galaxy. Stars are formed when gravity within dark matter halos draws in gas, but astrophysicists don't yet know whether star-free dark matter halos exist. That's the theory, but can they actually find proof that they exist? Now Ethan Nadler, a computational astrophysicist at UC San Diego, has calculated the mass below which halos fail to form stars. This work was done using an analytic predictions from galaxy formation theory in cosmological simulations. The study, titled "The Impact of Molecular Hydrogen Cooling on the Galaxy Formation Threshold," was published in the Astrophysical Journal Letters and was led by Ethan Nadler. Historically, our understanding of dark matter has been linked to its behavior in galaxies. A detection of completely dark halos would open up a new window to study the universe, stated Nadler. Previously, this threshold for star formation was thought to be between 100 million to 1 billion solar masses due to the cooling of atomic hydrogen gas. Now, the research shows that star formation can occur in halos down to 10 million solar masses through molecular hydrogen cooling. With Rubin Observatory coming online later this year, and JWST, good old JWST, already making unprecedented observations of our universe, there will soon be new data to test these predictions and reveal whether completely dark halos exist. This may have far-reaching consequences for cosmology and the nature of dark matter. So, that's your short story on dark matter halos. I don't know if you got any mixed metaphors for that. I think I lost you. I saw you. I lost you in the dark matter halo right there.
Dark matter halo. That's my brain this morning. A dark matter halo.
Are you having a cooling
metaphor
of
for my
hydrogen right now?
brain.
Are you expanding into a universe?
Yeah, I've only got so much hydrogen in my body because I've been getting enough carbohydrates yesterday. So yeah, I'm running low on fumes. My metaphors are all over the place. That's why they're mixed.
Yep.
That's it, I guess.
All right, let me mix this segue.
All right.
All right, I'm going to come up with a hypothetical situation based on your next story.
Oh boy, that's a new one. Okay, 2 stories. Authorities say a babysitter checked under bed for monsters and found someone. That's interesting, I think.
That's scary as hell. That's not interesting. Frightening.
Yeah, I know. Let's delve further into this story by Rachel Treisman from NPR. Let's go, Rachel. The sun is up now. It's quite light outside. Oh, wow. It comes with a picture. You click on the reading pane, you don't think you're going to get a giant picture. All right. The myth of the boogeyman hiding under the bed came true for one Kansas family this week after a child's complaint led to a man's arrest. The Barton County Sheriff's Office said in a statement that it responded to reports of a disturbance at the house outside of the city of Great Bend on Monday. The unnamed babysitter told authorities that she was getting the kids ready for bed when one complained about a monster under the bed. Her efforts to reassure them otherwise didn't go quite as planned. When the victim attempted to show the child there was nothing under the bed, she came face to face with the male suspect who was hiding there, the sheriff's statement said. An altercation ensued with the babysitter, and one child was knocked over in the struggle. The suspect is a 27-year-old man who once lived at the residence, the statement says, but who was under a protection from abuse order that required him to stay away from the property. NPR is not publishing the name because whether he has been charged in connection with the incident is unclear. Online court records cited by CNN and KAKE News show he posted bond of about 10 days early after being charged with criminal threat, domestic battery, and violating a protection from abuse order related to incidents in January and February. NPR has reached out to the sheriff's office and Barton County attorney for more information. The statement says the suspect fled the scene before deputies arrived on Monday night, but was spotted in the area after a short foot pursuit, taken into custody the next morning. He was arrested on charges of aggravated kidnapping, aggravated burglary, aggravated battery, child endangerment, felony obstruction of a law enforcement officer, and violation of a protection from abuse order, the statement said. According to the statement, the man is being held in county jail in lieu of a $500,000 bond. It's not clear whether he has retained a lawyer. While fears of someone hiding under the bed are ubiquitous, they don't materialize very often. In 2006, a former Washington, D.C. hospital valet was sentenced more than 3 years in prison for stalking a hospital employee. He allegedly made copies of her keys, snuck a video camera onto her dresser, and hid under her bed for 2 nights before he was discovered by the woman's boyfriend. Wow, that's crazy. In 2016, a Tennessee woman discovered her ex-boyfriend hiding under her bed while she was having a security system installed to protect against him. She had already filed a protective order and changed her locks multiple times. According to Nashville police affidavit reported by WZTB News, she shot him in the foot and held him at gunpoint until police arrived in that Tennessee incident. So there's your babysitter with the monster under the bed. And we're going to do one more story. Is that one?
What would you... No, wait. Hypothetical real quick. What would you do if this happened? Like, actually. Like, would you just, like...
Gee. I don't know. I'd probably step on his hand and punch him in the throat.
Yeah.
He's already on the floor.
Sounds easy. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Easy segue.
Hiding under the bed, he probably isn't there by accident. You know, just say it. Oh, am I under a bed again? Oh, shit, how'd I get here? This is a story from UPI.com. Ben Hooper. Uber's lost and found items include live turtle and chainsaw. So we're going to talk about the strange world of the Uber drivers lost and found. Uber released its annual Lost and Found Index, an accounting of items left behind in the ride-share cars, including a mannequin head with human hair, a live turtle, and a 5-gallon bucket of beans. In 2025, Uber Lost and Found Index, released Tuesday, also revealed that most commonly left behind items were phones, keys, and wallets, with New York City being named the most forgetful city. Some of the most unique items cited by Uber, including a mannequin head with human hair, a chainsaw, a Ghostbusters ghost trap, fresh breast milk, a live pet turtle, a urinal, what? A set of Shrek ears, 15 hookahs, a bouquet of 100 red roses. Wow, you buy 100 red roses and leave them in the car. Whew. That must have been expensive. Ozempic, 10 live lobsters, a Viking drinking horn, a taxidermied rabbit, and a passenger's divorce papers. The food-related items on the index included a 5-gallon bucket of beans, 175 hamburger sliders, 108 eggs, 24 cans of corn, and a bucket of feta cheese. There's a lot
of buckets of food that people are leaving on the Ubers, and that's worrying me.
What the hell? The urinal. What the hell? A urinal. From wayward mannequin heads to live lobsters, Uber riders have left behind some truly unforgettable items this year, said Camiel Irving, Vice President Operations of Uber. Whether essential or totally unusual, we understand how important it is to be reunited with your lost belongings. The Uber Lost and Found Index celebrates the most unique and commonly forgotten items while reminding riders that getting support to retrieve their prized possessions is simple through the Uber app. So there's your quick story on Uber and all the crappy stuff people and expensive. 100 red roses? Well, you went to trouble buying 100 red roses and you left them in a car?
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
Your brain doesn't work. I'm sorry. You shouldn't be handling money for anyone.
I'm just thinking of the hypothetical situation in which you leave your divorce papers. Oh, sorry, we're going to get divorced, but I left them in the Uber. So, you know. You're going to have to send them again. Oh, and I left my freaking 5-gallon jar of beans there. Oh, now we don't have any dinner. Oh.
No beans.
You fell down again. Also, Vanka, do we have a story on the direwolves? No, but we did talk about the direwolves before the show started. And they aren't actually direwolves. They're gray wolves that have been spliced with direwolf DNA. So that's really all the story I have for you there. But it is very cool. And I think I said something along the lines of direwolves. We did a story 2 years ago, maybe a year ago, about direwolves, and that they're not actually wolves. They are, they're like an offshoot of the same ancestor. Similar to how chimpanzees and humans are offshoots of the same ancestor. That's what direwolves are also. So direwolves are not related to wolves at all. 0%. So what they did with the direwolf cubs is similar to if I took some Neanderthal DNA, put it in a baby in utero, and then a human and Neanderthal combination, right? They're not... Or maybe even a chimpanzee. Putting a chimpanzee DNA inside of a human being. That's kind of what they've done. So that is pretty wacky. But with no stories on that right now. Anyways, my next story is going to be an interview with Peter Capaldi on his punk rock past. Oh, let me roll the segue wheel for you while your phone falls over constantly.
Yeah, well, my phone still survives.
All right, bad pun. That should be easy for you. A Scotsman walks into a punk rock concert. Anyways, this is this is The Guardian. This is on The Guardian from Peter Capaldi because it's an interview. One of his first musical memories is being given a Beatles wig. They sold them in the Woolworths, but it wasn't a normal wig with individual strands of hair. It was vacuum-formed plastic and felt like wearing a crash helmet. When it was on you, it looked like you had Paul's hair, but when you took it off, you were left with what looked like a scar on your forehead. The Beatles were big in Capaldi's house, but it was the lovable mop-top Beatles, the London Palladium Beatles. Once they'd grown their hair and become hippish, his family were always a bit down on them. Capaldi remembers taking a shoebox and transforming it into a miniature replica of Ready, Steady, Go, the television music show that was like a precursor to Top of the Pops. He cut it off the front, drew little exit signs, and cut out the little Beatles. Looking back, that was when he started using music to create little worlds. He's not a very experienced songwriter, but Capaldi read that John Lennon would sometimes think, I want to do something like Roy Orbison, and they would quite openly copy genres. So a song like Sweet Illusion on Capaldi's new album is definitely having a go at the 60s song. Another influence you may hear is Frank Sinatra, who Capaldi's parents often listened to. They didn't have a big record collection. In fact, they never seemed to buy records. So he has no idea where these ones came from. But they had a couple of Sinatra albums. After a few drinks, everyone in the family would join in on the singing. That's life. Capaldi never realized it until later because his parents were in the ice cream business and lived in a tenement, but his family were actually very musical. His father played piano, his uncle played guitar, another uncle played accordion, and another uncle sang and did comedy bits. A lot of uncles. So when they got together as a family, they were a band and everyone would tear into it. Capaldi's uncle's guitar was more like a piece of furniture than an instrument. It had a huge strings that you need big Italian peasant hands to play, but he battered the hell out of it and it sounded great. Capaldi was very lucky not to get into drama school, they said. You're awful, don't come here, quite rightfully at the time, so he went to art school instead. It was great. They were all turned up and dressed like Neil Young, circa after the gold rush, wearing long hair and cheesecloth shirts. Then, during his first summer there, the Sex Pistols exploded and everyone came back in plastic trousers with cheaply dyed hair. Suddenly, there were this ethos that you could be in a band. So, of course, Capaldi got involved with that. His was called the Dream Boys. His influences were Bowie, Talking Heads, and the Cramps, who were like a voodoo swamp version of the Munsters. For some reasons, they seemed like the direction to go in, perhaps not very wisely. This was around 1977, and back then you could take a tape to a venue and get a gig. The art school had a very staid student body that looked after entertainment. They tended to bring in hippie bands, jazz acts, and George Melly. Capaldi wanted more aggressive music, so they ended up providing it themselves. But their shows weren't full of people spitting. There were quite a schism between London and the rest of the country. Capaldi thinks people of Glasgow frowned on all the spitting and that kind of nonsense. The Dream, what was the name of his band again? I already forgot the name. Oh, here it is. Dream Boys. Dream Boys always struggled with drummers. It was like Spinal Tap. Some drummers or other would come and sit in with them. Then one night at a place called the Rock Garden, Capaldi asked if anyone knew a drummer who wanted to join the band. A 17-year-old in the audience asked if he could have a go at it. Rather grandly, Dream said they would audition him, as if they had any idea what they were doing. He turned out to be a brilliant drummer, and he was very funny too. You'll know him as a comedian on a U.S. talk show. Host Craig Ferguson, that's right, Craig Ferguson was in Peter Capaldi's 70s punk rock band, crazy. And he was just a guy in the crowd. Yeah. Hey, yeah, you, come up here, play the drums. It all goes back to the shoebox. At the time, Capaldi thought he just loved showing off, but really what he loved was being able to create a whole world on stage, presenting ideas to people. He kept at it. He tried and tried, but the band was just not getting anywhere. Eventually, you run out of steam because you have no money and you're eating pot noodles on Christmas Day. It seemed like everybody else in Glasgow was getting signed or doing a peel session, and they just weren't. Peter would get the coach down to London and go around all the record labels, but nothing ever happened. Still, all the local bands were very sweet and offered support slots. Dream was supported at Alter Images a few times. Their singer, Claire Grogan, had just done the film Gregory's Girl. One of the night directors, Bill Forsyth, was in the audience, and after the gig, he invited Capaldi to be in his film Local Hero. If someone standing backstage at a sweaty gig tells you you're making a film in Scotland, you assume it's going to be a 16mm half-hour thing without a script. but it turned out to be a proper film. It felt like fate was pushing him towards acting and away from music. So, Peter embraced that. To be honest, he never was interested in writing songs, and he was never that guy at the party who brought out the guitar. But he became friendlier with Dr. Robert of the Blow Monkeys, and he is that guy at the party with the guitar. He's a living jukebox, Robert, a fantastic singer and player. He would invite Peter to play songs with him, and then he challenged Peter to write his own material. He wrote songs from his debut album St. Christopher while he was filming The Suicide Squad in 2019. Capaldi had so much downtime on set that he thought he'd spend it writing and see what happened. A lot of it was rubbish, but some of it was okay. He loves the Kinks and live in Muswell Hill was booked to their studio Conch to record it all. But then the pandemic hit, and well, everyone knows how that went. Instead, they took garage band demos and sent them off to people. Then they would come back with great sax player on it or whatever. There are not many people who release their debut album at the age of 62. But that's the great thing about technology. Anybody can do it. When Capaldi was originally trying to be in the music business, you had to be signed by Sony or RCA to release something. But now, you just need a computer. Capaldi wasn't nervous of putting this music out. It doesn't matter, it's not his profession. His friends are musicians and have extreme ups and downs and maintain their commitment to music through all of that. Of course, his cousin's, I thought it was his nephew, but his cousin's son, Louis Capaldi, is already a great case in point of making someone who's dedicated to life to music. His dad was driving around Leith and Aberdeen, anywhere with a pub he could stand in with a guitar and sing. Because he had to do it, Louis. It actually appeared in his video for Someone You Loved. Oh, Peter Capaldi appeared in his video for Someone You Loved, which was a song that exploded on the pop charts, and he was delighted to be in it. He's fantastic, Louis, and he's an entirely different league from Peter. The songs were originally more something he was doing for himself, and he thought, okay, if I'm going to go and make music, it has to be something I want to make. I'm not going to do a Peter Capaldi Christmas album. It couldn't be Malcolm Tucker sings Sinatra. Have yourself a Merry fucking Christmas. Reminder that Peter Capaldi got famous before he was Doctor Who for being a cursing, a cursing businessman. Like just every other word. He was saying fuck or shit or any other thing you could think of. So that's why it would be funny if you made a Christmas album of him just cursing. Peter Capaldi's new album, Sweet Illusions, is really his way of picking up where he left off 40 years ago as an art school student. It reminds him of Glasgow in 1984, when there was a lot of synths and fuzzy guitars, lots of echo and reverb, and lots of dreamers whose dreams were being crushed. The city has a noir-ish quality to it, a bit like Liverpool and Manchester do. It's the Victorian city centers and the rain and the night and all that. Very cinematic. You can conjure up images and stories. A lot of songs deal with aging, wondering where all the time has gone. Big Guy is about those who were once full of braggadocio and swagger, but now dribbling on their jumpers. We remember them as something else now. The single Bin Nights is a lullaby. Peter Capaldi's grandparent is a grandparent now, so suddenly he has babies and lullabies in his life again. It's wonderful, but being Scottish, there's always a melancholic streak in it. You'll seek out the bleak things. In this case, it's the ticking clock. These fabulous children bring out the vigor and chaos in your life, but how long do you have left to spend with them? That made Peter Capaldi think of the entropy of the universe and how awful the world is, and how just about the only moment he has any control over is putting the bins out. He doesn't know if it's the only song he's ever written about bin night, but it's a great subject. So, when your life is rough and the entropy of the universe is hitting you hard, take some time and put those bins out, because that's one of the only things you can really control. Putting the bins out at night for the trash man. But there's my story on Peter Capaldi's wacky life of making an album at 62, releasing an album at 62.
Related to Jim Capaldi, who used to be with Traffic, I wonder?
I don't think so. I think it would have been mentioned if he was. So.
Well, he's a little younger than Steve Winwood and Jim Capaldi, but could be Jim Capaldi's younger brother. Can't be that. It can't be that popular of a name, Capaldi.
I don't know.
England.
He's Scottish,
anyway.
though, right? Not Italian. So, I mean, he's probably Italian in ancestry, but he's from Scotland.
It's the same island as England, Scotland. Anyway, in the middle of that, my cell phone overheated and shut off Discord, so I'm on my tablet now. Luckily, I had that. It's only at 19%. We'll see how much longer that will last before it overheats. But anyway, that was a very rocky story for me because I had all kinds of bad pun. A very rocky story. Sorry for the terrible pun. And on to this day in history. All right, this day in history while I adjust to technology failing me again. Okay,
I did send you a link, by the way.
Oh, I sent you a link too.
Oh, we're okay. Well, then we'll use yours.
Okay, it was about direwolves.
Mine was the direwolf thing. That's not even related to today's story.
We were talking about it, so why not cover it, right?
I guess my story was a bit. Mine was about the shock and awe campaign in Iraq. New uncovered footage from
we can do it today. Tomorrow.
We do it tomorrow.
Do it tomorrow.
I guess.
Not. I got hurt. I don't know. All right, so I guess while my technology still works,
I have to create a limerick, so let's get going.
Limerick on this day in history. That's terrible. Okay. Sorry about that. This day in history. Way back to the year 1682. Wait, even farther back. The year 1388. Way back. What's really funny is my setup now is I got my picture is a little tiny screen and yours is the whole screen of my notebook. So you got a big head sitting on my dashboard. Anyway, 1388, the Battle of Naples culminated in a major victory for the Swiss Confederation in the first century of the struggle of self-determination against the Habsburg overlordship. Did you get all that? That's from Swiss history. 1388. Jumping ahead to 1682, René Robert Cavalier, Sieur Lord de La Salle, claimed the Mississippi River basin for France, naming it Louisiana. La Salle, who apparently was killed by his own men. 1865, General Robert E. Lee surrendered. Yes, right. The Civil War ended. Commander of the Army of the Northern Virginia of the Confederate States of America signed a treaty of surrender at Appomattox Courthouse, effectively ending the American Civil War, although a bunch of losers in this country have never given that up.
Yep.
1898. Okay, we're going to turn on the ignition here. We're going to start the car.
Oh, he's gone again.
Political activist Paul Robeson, a very good singer. African American, so he. Oh no, he's got the wrong color skin. Run for your lives! You know
he
that
can't
back
sing.
in those days.
What is he doing?
Moron.
He can't do that.
Morons of American history. The collective stupidity of all nations, collected in one confederacy. 1939. American contralto Marian Anderson, speaking of banned singers for being black, this is 1939. American, on Paul Robeson's birthday, as a matter of fact, African-American contralto Marian Anderson sang at an Eastern Sunday crowd of 75,000 at the Lincoln Memorial after the Daughters of American Revolution, a bunch of racist piles of shit, refused to allow her to sing at the Constitution Hall in Washington, D.C. Why? Daughters of American Revolution can go fuck themselves. An organization of racist assholes. They should have been disbanded immediately after that. 1963, an act of U.S. Congress conferred honorary U.S. citizenship on Sir Winston Churchill. But he still didn't get the vote, so that didn't help him much. The Astrodome opened in Houston, Texas, hosting the first indoor baseball game. So indoor baseball is 60 years old today. 2001, American Airlines officially completed its acquisition of Trans World Airlines, formerly called TWA, and became the world's largest airline. 2005, Charles, Prince of Wales, who was first in line to the British throne, who is now King of England. Yeah, she's the second wife of Prince Charles.
And nobody likes her, and then she's sad that nobody likes her.
And nobody should hold anything against her just for being a rich tart.
Actually, that is a good reason to not like her.
Watery tart. Swords. She's at Watery Tart distributing swords. That's what it is. Anyway, our featured event is 2003, the fall of Baghdad. Baghdad fell to U.S.-led forces on this day in 2003 in a totally unnecessary war. Several weeks after the start of the Iraq War, a conflict began to oust Iraqi President Saddam Hussein because of his supposed possession of weapons of mass destruction. Yeah, we caused all kinds of mass destruction to prevent mass destruction, which is the oxymoron of war.
Yeah.
Our feature biography is Jorn Utzon, a Danish architect, which is why I can't pronounce his name. It looks like he designed the Sydney Opera House, because there's a picture of it here. Born April 9th, 1918 in Copenhagen, and died November 29th, 2008, at the age of 90 in Copenhagen. So, born there. Yeah, I'm sure he got around. I'm sure he went other places. But especially since it looks like the Sydney Opera House was built by him. He's probably been to Australia. I'm just guessing.
Well, some people build blueprints and then never go there. And that's also something that...
Blueprints are right. I don't give a shit. I have faith in them. Right? I don't need to visit Australia. It's down under, for golly's sakes. Anyway, it's Charles Baudelaire's birthday, French author, born in 1821. Other birthdays, Edward, it's spelled Edward Muybridge, British photographer. Born in 1830. Leopold II, the King of Belgium, was born on this date, 1835. Hugh Hefner would be 99 today if he was still alive, American publisher and entrepreneur. Started Playboy magazine. 1954, Ian Duncan Smith was born, a British politician. So those are your birthdays. What days is it today besides National Unicorn Day? It's National Library Outreach Day. So go to your library if you got one still in your town. They're cool places. They're quiet. They're clean. You can always sit there, read a book. You don't have to check it out. You can make copies. You can do all kinds of fun stuff. Use the free internet, for crying out loud. National Former Prisoner of War Recognition Day. Not for the current prisoners of war. Not for the current ones. Just the former ones. I don't understand that at all. What's wrong with just recognizing all prisoners of war? No, we're going to narrow it down specifically to the ones that are... Let's put them on the box there. Not you that's currently being tortured. This other group. Anyway. National Education and Sharing Day. There you go. I've shared all my education with you today. And National Chinese Almond Cookie Day. Those are your days for everything. Your days, your mispronunciations, your spins of the wheels, your weird stories, everything for April 9th, 2025 on Before Chinese Almond Cookies.
All right, and here we go, my limerick, which I made a 3-stanza limerick. On April 9th, 2003, so fair, Baghdad fell with an unwarranted air. The U.S. did descend in what would never end, a conflict that left sorrow to share. With General Robert E. Lee so bold, Confederate forces did stories unfold. Their surrender did bring a nation's painful sting, a legacy that time won't grow old. We honor those who were held captive and worn, prisoners of war whose fate was forlorn. From Fort Sumter's call to Appomattox's fall, their bravery shines like a beacon born. Yeah, there you go. So remember those prisoners of war, those generals that... Well, don't remember the generals. Remember that the Confederates lost and stop holding on to losing. And then, of course,
I don't have access to that soundboard.
the illegal war in Iraq, of course. I remember that as well. There are no international UN observances today, which I feel like today of all days, they should have the UN observances of not starting illegal wars, but not today. It's not on here.
Well,
Let's take these days to not start illegal wars. Oh, wait. The UN doesn't really start wars, I guess, technically. And this has been Allison here from the Netherlands, tying off another Whacking Wood Wednesday with Roger at Iowa, in the state of Iowa. Hopefully he'll get somewhere today. Keep on driving safely down the road. And we will see you tomorrow for our Thursday's 13. We'll come up with a list of 13 things and we'll tell you about them. And you guys can argue with us, or we can argue with each other about those things on the list. So if you want to see that, make sure you subscribe, turn on those notifications on the Allie and Raj channel, and we'll see ya tomorrow. Let's go to our very popular subject that we didn't talk about all today, the direwolf mic drop moment.
We'll get to it because it's popular demand.
It's trending now for sure. I really do hope they go into the fact that they aren't really direwolves.
13,000 years in the making.
They're howling.
Walking the earth for the first time since the Stone Age, thanks to a remarkable scientific breakthrough.
The direwolf is the first de-extinct species.
Until recently, the only way to catch a glimpse of the bygone beast was to watch Game of Thrones.
The direwolf is a sigil of your house.
I guess, yeah, Game of Thrones, sure.
Texas-based Colossal Biosciences has recreated the canines by implanting fossilized genes into the gray wolf.
We've taken a gray wolf genome, a gray wolf cell, which is already genetically 99.5% identical to direwolves, and we've edited those cells at multiple places in its
We're close to chimps too, like you said.
Direwolf version of the DNA.
No, I remember we did a story on how direwolves are not related to wolves. Like, I remember that.
Looks like a direwolf.
They're 99% related.
And it is a direwolf.
But as dire pups
No, I think they're saying these ones are 99% related. The ones they've made.
Ecosystems are very delicately balanced, and nature is more and more complicated.
Trying to recall old stories you did. That's.
I'm not 60, so I can do that actually.
Some critics claim these new wolves aren't actually dire wolves, since they share so much of their DNA with their
interesting that they're white,
counterparts,
because I don't think they're probably.
that de-extinction efforts could have unforeseen.
I wonder if that is in the genetics, or they manipulated them to be white.
The genome we still do not understand.
Because the dire wolves you see in museums, they're always darker. More gray wolves looking.
What the guy was saying was they're not technically dire wolves.
Yeah,
Andrew Dimber, ABC
that's what I was
News,
saying.
New York.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.